Aloha. Thank you so much for joining me today on the very first show that we're putting out. There's nothing more precious that we have to give to one another than time. And so I just want to let you know, I appreciate that you are taking some time out of your day to spend with me here on the Tulsi Gabbard Show. We got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot to talk about in the coming weeks. I will be sharing my perspective on a whole host of topics and issues, and I really look forward to sharing some interesting conversations with you, with people who I know very well as those who I may be meeting for the first time, but who have an interesting perspective on challenges we face, on opportunities that we have ahead of us. I think you'll like what we have to share. Today, I want to share something with you that has been on my mind and has been troubling me for quite some time and has now compelled me to take action. Now, I love our country. Our God-given rights of freedom, life, and liberty that are enshrined in our Constitution and Bill of Rights are what inspires me. Now, I answered the call to duty. I took an oath dedicating my life to supporting and defending those freedoms, both in uniform and in public office. I had the good fortune of growing up here in Hawaii, and growing up here gave me a very special appreciation for the importance of our environment, protecting our water, protecting our natural resources. And, I used to go and do beach cleanups as a kid and do other things trying to protect our home, but I always felt like I needed to do more. And so when I was 21 years old, I decided to run for Hawaii State House so that I could actually be in a position to do that, to protect the environment. I'd never had any interest in running for office. Before that, I was not politically affiliated. But as I was filling out the paperwork to go and file my election papers, I had to choose which box I would check. I had to choose which party I would affiliate with. So before doing that, I thought I needed to do my research. And I did that. And as I read more and learned more, I was inspired by Democrats who stood up against the war in Vietnam. I was inspired by those who here in Hawaii fought for plantation workers who were being abused and exploited by wealthy landowners, but had nobody to stand up for them and be their voice. I was inspired by leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy. I was drawn to the ideals of a big tent, inclusive Democratic Party that stood up for working men and women, that stood up for the little guy. And in contrast, as I read about the Republican Party at that time, it seemed like it was a party that stood for the interests of big business and warmongering elites. So I became a Democrat and remained one for the last 20 years. Yes, an independent Democrat, to be sure, but a Democrat nonetheless. I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party. It's now under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms enshrined in our Constitution, and who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police, who protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, these are some of the main reasons I'm leaving the Democratic Party, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about them here with you today. But these are really important issues. And in the coming weeks, I hope you'll join me because I'm going to be going into each and every one of these in more depth. Now, the pro-war Democratic Party of today has led us to the brink of nuclear war. This party is led by warmongers who are firmly in the grips of the military-industrial complex and don't know or don't care about the cost of war or who pays the price. President Biden and Democratic Party elites have pushed us to the precipice of nuclear war, risking starting World War III and destroying the world as we know it. This is the most urgent and existential threat that we face.